Name is Tim Goodwin, and he is with us from the folks at the Old Farmer's Almanac. We talk with them every year in the beginning of the winter as we talk about the Almanac itself. But now we have a little bit more hope for this season, as it's the Old Farmer's Almanac Garden Guide 2023. Our conversation with Tim brought to you by Marcus and Mack. Voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. So you're sitting there, I imagine, on your window seat in New Hampshire looking out at the snow falling. Is my picture correct, Tim?
That is correct. We've for a while we weren't getting a lot of snow, but lately, the last week or so, it seems like it's been, every time I look out, there's an inch of snow on the ground and covering my driveway that I have to go take care of.
Well, we've had virtually no snow the entire winter here in Indiana, PA. And we're not lamenting that at all, because what it's done is it's got us thinking about our gardens already, and maybe even a little bit earlier than we do. And that's where you come in. The Old Farmer's Almanac Garden Guide 2023. I'm holding it in my hands right now, and it's just it's a picture of hope is what it is, Tim. And people do that this time of the year. They dream a little bit, don't they?
Of course, yeah. I mean, as the days start to get a little bit longer, and hopefully it starts to warm up a little bit. Especially when tomorrow when it switches over to March, it's that spring of hope, and people really start to think, okay, I gotta start thinking about my seeds. Where do I want to start a new garden area? What worked last year? What do I want to plant again? So yeah, it really is, and it's exciting time because we all want warmer weather in our life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we love the idea of getting out there once more and into our gardens. For me, it's the vegetable garden. For others, a garden has maybe a different connotation, but you cover it all in the Old Farmer's Almanac Garden Guide for 2023. I'm looking at just the various sections of the book, and there's the bartender's garden is one of the sections. There's landscaping and edibles, weather wisdom, which I found particularly fascinating, weather wisdom and the strategies that we have to employ depending upon where we're living in the United States for our plants to survive and our gardens to thrive.
Yeah, there's really a lot that goes into it, but what we like to do with this annual garden guide is, we want to appeal to everybody, whether you're a first-time gardener, somebody who has been gardening for decades. There's a little bit of something for everybody in there. And, because we want people to garden. It's such an important part of not only, producing our food and making our yards beautiful, but, it's got so many health benefits, the relaxation, connecting with nature. There's a pride that comes with growing your own food too.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And one of the fascinating things about gardening to me, and we do a segment every Friday with Bob Pollock from the Extension Service here in Indiana County. And people can call in and ask questions about lawns and gardens and such. And the fascinating thing to me is it's a science, but it's an art at the same time. And there's always something new. People have been gardening for thousands of years, and still we're finding new things about plants.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's always something new to, whether it's new to the world of gardening or it's new to you. There's always something new that you can try. Gardening for me, you mentioned you like to do vegetable gardens. I don't have a whole lot of luck with vegetables. Just the way that our yard is set up, there's not a good sunny spot for vegetable garden. We do really great with flowers, and we've really tried to evolve and try new things and plant new bulbs, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But, there's always something out there to try. And that's the great thing about gardening, is whether it worked one year or didn't work, you can try it again, or it gives you an idea to try something different.
I'm looking, and you mentioned a couple of moments ago about the garden guide, is it should appeal to anybody, whether it's a first-time or beginning gardener or somebody who's been doing it for years. And it really does, because of the educational value of the book. I was just looking at the section on the emerald ash borer, which came through here and just devastated the ash tree crop here in Pennsylvania about 4 or 5 years ago, and there's a good little item about that in here. But it really is interesting the way that nature not only adapts, but nature can heal itself if we give it a chance. Yeah,
we've had an issue with the same thing. Emerald ash borers. There's a huge push for for people to really kind of keep an eye out for it, to try to get rid of it as much as we can. But yeah, nature is so resilient. It's really great because, I mean, if it wasn't, would we still be here? You know, it's over thousands of years, and, you know, things have evolved, and, you know, different plants have gone away and other ones have, you know, come about. So, you know, it's really found a way to survive and thrive.
Yeah, it has. Now, I'm looking in the edibles section at the moment, and the section on herbs and the various things that we might find growing, even growing in the wild, that we can eat. But then we turn to the produce section, and it fascinates me how the different varieties are developed, and how really folks like our friends at Penn State Extension and other places at Penn State and all of the land-grant universities, they work on developing disease-resistant and pest-resistant plants so that species can survive, and that we can make them a part of our lives and of our diets. So that's one thing. But then after that comes the section on the grasses. And that has become more and more an area of fascination for me. And I really appreciate the way that it's approached in the Garden Guide.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's a wonderful story. It's a great guide on, you know, because people are looking for different ways to use their property. You know, it's not all about just planting vegetables and harvesting and beautiful flowers to look at. You know, there's so many great benefits too. I mean, the grasses, it not only does it add a new dimension, but it's a great benefit to wildlife. You know, when we have, you know, in our trend section, you know, kind of stepping back to the beginning of the guide, is, you know, there's so many things that you can put out there and plants, so you can have, you know, for pollinators and native, you know, bugs that are in your area that really benefit everything that you're growing. Yeah,
really does. Interesting as well in the landscaping section, the various articles that are there about different ways that you can landscape and the different structures that you can build and use, and the benefits that they'll have to wildlife around us, hummingbirds and the bird population as a whole. We can be real helpful, and pollinators have become a really big thing, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, we wouldn't be anywhere without them. You know, our food wouldn't grow, our flowers wouldn't, you know, come about. So yeah, I mean, these birds and bees and butterflies are so important. You know, sometimes people think of bees as, you know, these bothersome pests, but they're really not. They're so beneficial to everything that we grow, and we need to provide them with the proper plantings and the space to be able to do their work.
Yeah, well, when you talk about any of the pollinators, they're the essence of life, really, when it gets right down to it. That's how we grow. There's great material on soils in the Garden Guide as well. So, Tim, where are we going to come across this guide? How are we going to get our hands on it?
Sure, we're available online. You know, you can go to our website, almanac.com/where to buy. You can put in your zip code. It will tell you all the local retailers where you can find it. You can also order it online on our website, but it's available where, you know, books are sold. If you go to almanac.com/garden guide, it will give you a really great little snippets about each story in there, and it will show you, like, oh, that appeals to me. Oh, that appeals to me. And then you're going to want to go out and buy it, because, like I said before, you know, it really is something that is for everybody. There's some very technical things in there, but there's some really great ideas of how to, you know, improve your lawn and try new things. You know, our trend section is just so great that it gives a lot of great things that are, people are looking to do, working on now and going into the future.
Yeah. So in New Hampshire, where you are, once the snow is all gone and things start growing once again, what's the plan for you this year, Tim?
For me, we like to we have a couple areas where we plant some, you know, we buy some plants that are already started, and we have a nice little flower garden. But for me, it's now my wife and I and our young children as well, they didn't help as much as we would have liked. But, you know, we've redone a few garden areas, and we planted some bushes. So now it's really getting bulbs in there. We've got some springtime bulbs that we planted a couple falls ago, but now it's really starting to add more bulbs so we can get that bright color throughout the season.
Everybody has their picture of what it should be, what the yard looks like, what the garden looks like. The Old Farmer's Almanac Garden Guide 2023 is going to help us to narrow that down and actually make it happen. Tim Goodwin, thanks so much for joining us from the Old Farmer's Almanac. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd. Have a great day.
You too. We'll see you. It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160.